Welcome back to class. Today's subject is on critical thinking. Now, what is critical thinking? It is reasonable, reflective thinking that is focused on deciding what to believe or do. Reasonable, reflective thinking. So, why do I bring this up? I have a video that has been out for a couple of months. It's a short video, and it's basically about Jordan Peterson talking about how he went to the carnivore diet, really doing lion diet, I guess, with basically eating meat, beef, salt, and water, right? And this video has done really well. It's got over 37,000 views. I would say that it has done its job of getting out there to thousands of people and talking about the carnivore diet and getting people thinking about the carnivore diet. There may be some people out there that watched this video that were already thinking about it, and this video might have been enough for them to say, yeah, I've been thinking about this. Maybe I should do the carnivore diet. So that's one of the big reasons why I did that video, knowing with Jordan Peterson, there was a potential to get a lot of views, and it has. So it's had a lot of views, a lot of comments. Sometimes I wonder what people are thinking when they put a comment in there. And here is a good example that I want to show you. This is a comment that's more recent, and the comment is, and no science behind this whatsoever. So that takes us to today's lesson about critical thinking. So let's think about the carnivore diet in terms of critical thinking. Science, no science whatsoever. So people, humans, our ancestors, Neanderthals, before them, whatever, they, for millions of years, basically ate a carnivore diet. Sure, they didn't call it carnivore, but the fact is, they ate a meat-based diet. They were eating meat. They were eating animal meat. They were eating animal fat, largely large ruminant animals, right? Like buffalo, moose, caribou, deer, whatever. Yes, fish, seafood, stuff like that they were eating. In some of the warmer climates, they would have time periods, maybe a few weeks a year, where they could also eat berries, stuff like that. But largely, their diets were meat. Especially you go up, higher up, you look at Alaska and so forth. They were pretty much just eating meat. And there are tribes out there today in certain areas in the world that's all that they eat is meat. There is plenty of science behind a carnivore diet. When you look at the existence of mankind, about 1% of that time period of mankind was with the introduction of carbs that we have today. We're talking 8 to 10,000 years or so when the agriculture age came into play, and a lot more farming of wheat, stuff like that. And, breads and whatever have been made and so forth. That's a very small percentage of time of mankind. Before that, it was all meat-based diets. It's what we were made to eat, is a meat-based diet. And so you look at it, and really the last 100 years, and even more specifically the last 50 years or so, sugar has been more prevalent in our diet. Carbs have been more prevalent. Um, Processed foods, heavily prevalent in the last 20 years or so, but really for the last 50 years, it's been ramping up the amount of processed foods that's been in our diet. This all really comes back to back in like the 50s and 60s, there was a heavy push from the sugar industry to say that sugar was okay and processed foods were okay. And it was actually meat, particularly red meat and saturated fat, that was the problem that we were starting to see in our diets. Because you go back the last 50 years or so before that, you were slowly starting to see more disease and issues. Cardiovascular issues were small, but they were starting to pop up. Nothing like it is today. Cancer, things like that, definitely starting to pop up. So they blamed and they paid off scientists in studies to blame meat and saturated fat as the problem. And they continued to push sugar, processed foods, things that they could make really cheap and make a whole lot of profit on. And over the last 50 years, it's gotten worse and worse with sickness and disease. Processed foods have time and time again been shown that they are bad for us. Nobody asks for scientific proof on whether or not they should eat that donut, but they go and eat that donut, right? Somebody goes out there and says, hey, I eliminated all processed foods and sugars and I'm eating meat. And with basically just eating meat, I feel great. I got rid of this problem. I got rid of this sickness, this disease. And other people say, there is no science behind this. Why would you want to do something like that? Well, show me the science that tells you that a donut or a cookie is good for you. Have you ever found science that says that that's good for you, that you should eat all this sugar or drink all this sugar in very heavy sugar-based sodas? There's no science behind that, and you do that. So today's lesson, let's think critically about things. Is there science behind something that mankind has done for millions of years? Is there science behind eating healthy? Is there science behind the studies that are coming out? People that are getting off of diabetes, getting off of other autoimmune diseases, off their medications, and so forth that they have been taking because they are now eating a meat-based diet. They're getting rid of the sugar, the processed foods, and they're eating the diet that we were meant to eat and did eat. Our ancestors ate for millions of years. And certainly if you are the type of person that doesn't believe in millions of years of mankind, then fine. Even going past past, let's say we go past 8,000 BC, okay? There was mankind before that. There was mankind before agriculture, and they just ate meat. There's science there, is there not? What about some of these tribes? Look at some of the people in Alaska. Some of those people, they live off the land. They hunt for their food. They eat moose, caribou for the most part. They might eat something else, like they might get really desperate, right? And eat smaller animals at times, rabbits, so forth, right? But whatever, they're eating the meat. That is what feeds them. They're not sick. They're not diseased like the people that are sitting here eating all kinds of processed food, getting way overweight, and having all kinds of health issues. So that's today's lesson. Let's think critically about the carnivore diet. Critical thinking tells us, yes, there is a lot of science behind it. When people are able to eat this way for 40 years, like Rick Rodriguez, and not have health issues, you can't say saturated fat causes heart disease and other issues when you've got people that have done that. You know, there are other people that have ate this way their entire lives. We're talking 60, 65, 70 years or more. They've ate this way and they have no health issues. They are not overweight. You know, you have other people that did eat standard American diet, whatever, with processed foods. They were overweight and they switched to a carnivore diet and they've ate that way now for 10, 20, even 30 years. They've reversed any issues they had. They're no longer overweight and they are very healthy. There's science right there. So that's my lesson for today. Go ahead and like this video, share it on social media, share it with your friends. Let's get other people thinking reasonably about the carnivore diet and the science behind it. Look at the different studies that are coming out, right? There's a study from Harvard just in 2021 where I think it was like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like 98% got off medication that had diabetes. 98% of people that went on carnivore with diabetes got off of their medication because it helped that much. There's science right there.